Most traders think their breakthrough will come from finding the perfect strategy, but they're dead wrong. Ask the traders who actually made it, the ones who survived blown accounts, 10-year plateaus, and gut punch losses. Their turning point wasn't a new indicator, it was a new mindset. While amateur traders spend their energy desperately trying to be right on every single trade, professional traders have discovered something profound. They've learned that losing isn't the enemy of profitable trading. It's actually the foundation. Today, I'm going to reveal why the traders who master the art of losing consistently outperform those who chase perfect win rates. We're going to explore the psychology, the mathematics, and the practical reality of why your relationship with losses determines everything about your trading career. You've probably heard this before. Cut your losses short and let your winners run. Simple advice that sounds logical until you actually try to implement it. What nobody tells you is that cutting losses short requires you to become comfortable with being wrong frequently. It demands that you develop a completely different relationship with failure than what society has programmed into your brain since childhood. Most traders approach the market with a fundamental misconception. They believe that successful trading means being right most of the time. This belief creates a psychological trap that destroys more trading accounts than any technical analysis mistake ever could. Here's the brutal truth. The best traders in the world can often be wrong more than they're right, yet they consistently generate profits year after year. Let's talk about something every trading educator conveniently ignores: the mathematics of expectancy versus the psychology of execution. You can have a trading system with positive expected value on paper, but if you can't execute it consistently because you're afraid of taking losses, that mathematical edge becomes completely worthless. This is where most traders fail, not in their analysis, but in their ability to take controlled losses without letting emotions hijack their decision-making. Think about professional poker players for a moment. They don't win every hand. In fact, they fold most of their hands before seeing the flop. But they understand something crucial about probability and risk management. They know that their edge comes not from winning every hand, but from making mathematically sound decisions consistently over thousands of hands. Trading operates on identical principles, yet somehow this concept gets lost when money is on the line. Here's what actually separates winning traders from losing traders. It's not their win rate, it's not their risk-reward ratio, and it's definitely not their technical analysis skills. It's their ability to take small, controlled losses without hesitation, without emotional attachment, and without letting those losses affect their judgment on subsequent trades. This skill alone determines whether you'll join the small percentage of consistently profitable traders or become another casualty in the market's unforgiving landscape. The neuroscience behind loss aversion reveals exactly why this is so difficult. Research shows that the pain of losing money is approximately twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same amount. Your brain is literally hardwired to avoid losses, even when taking those losses is the mathematically correct decision. Professional trading firms understand this psychological reality better than anyone. They don't hire traders who boast about their win rates. They hire traders who can demonstrate emotional stability during losing streaks. They know that a trader who falls apart after 3 consecutive losses will never survive the inevitable variance that comes with any profitable trading strategy. Let's examine what happens inside the mind of a trader who hasn't mastered losing. After their first loss, they start questioning their analysis. After the second loss, they begin modifying their strategy midstream. By the third loss, they're either revenge trading to get even, or they're paralyzed with fear, unable to take the next setup even when it perfectly matches their criteria. This psychological deterioration has nothing to do with their trading system and everything to do with their relationship with being wrong. Now contrast this with a trader who has mastered losing. They view each loss as tuition paid to the market for education. They understand that losses are simply the cost of doing business, like rent for a retail store or advertising expenses for a marketing company. When they take a loss, their primary concern isn't the money they just lost. It's whether they followed their predetermined plan correctly. This mindset shift changes everything about how you interact with markets. Instead of trying to predict which trades will win and which will lose, you focus entirely on process execution. You become obsessed with following your rules rather than being obsessed with being right. This subtle but profound difference in focus is what allows some traders to maintain consistent profitability while others struggle indefinitely. The best traders develop what psychologists call learned optimism, specifically around losses. They don't see a stopped-out trade as evidence that they're bad at trading. They see it as evidence that their risk management system is working exactly as designed. This reframe isn't just positive thinking nonsense. It's a fundamental shift in how they process information that allows them to maintain clear judgment, even during difficult periods. Here's something fascinating about trader psychology. Studies have shown that traders who keep detailed loss journals, documenting not just what went wrong, but what they learned from each losing trade, develop significantly better risk management skills than traders who only focus on their winners. The act of examining losses systematically removes the emotional charge and transforms them into valuable data points. Most traders either ignore losses or they overanalyze one loss. Skilled traders do neither. They examine their losses as a whole, looking for patterns, probabilities, and long-term behavior. They know a single losing trade means nothing in isolation. What matters is whether the entire set of trades aligns with the edge their strategy is designed to produce. This analytical approach to losses creates a compounding effect. Each loss becomes a building block in their education rather than a setback in their confidence. Over time, they develop an almost encyclopedic knowledge of what doesn't work in various market conditions. This knowledge becomes incredibly valuable because knowing what doesn't work is often more important than knowing what does work. The concept of anti-fragility applies perfectly to trading psychology. Nassim Taleb describes anti-fragile systems as those that don't just survive stress but actually become stronger because of it. Traders who master losing develop this anti-fragile quality. Each loss makes them more resilient, more knowledgeable, and more prepared for future challenges. But here's where most traders get confused. Mastering losing doesn't mean you become comfortable with large losses or that you stop caring about preserving capital. It means you become extremely comfortable with small, predefined losses that are part of your overall strategy. You develop the ability to take these losses quickly and cleanly without hesitation or regret. This distinction is crucial because it separates disciplined risk management from reckless gambling. A trader who has mastered losing has strict rules about position sizing, stop-loss placement, and maximum daily loss limits. They're not cavalier about losing money. They're surgical about it. They lose exactly what they plan to lose and no more. The transformation happens gradually. At first, taking losses feels like failure. Then it feels like necessary evil. Eventually, it feels like professional competence. When you reach the point where executing a stop loss feels like a demonstration of your trading skill rather than an admission of being wrong, you've crossed into territory where consistent profitability becomes possible. The market becomes your laboratory rather than your battlefield when you reach this level of psychological development. Every trade becomes an experiment where the outcome is less important than the quality of your hypothesis and execution. This scientific approach to trading eliminates the emotional roller coaster that destroys most traders before they ever develop real skill. Let's talk about something most traders never consider: the relationship between loss tolerance and position sizing. Traders who are terrified of losing money unconsciously sabotage themselves by taking positions that are too small to matter or too large to handle psychologically. When your position size is driven by fear rather than calculated risk, you're guaranteed to make suboptimal decisions regardless of your market analysis. Here's the mathematical reality that changes everything. If you risk 1% of your account on each trade and you're wrong 10 times in a row, you've lost roughly 10% of your capital. Uncomfortable, yes. Account ending, absolutely not. But if you can't handle being wrong 10 times in a row, you'll either increase your position size trying to get even faster, or you'll stop trading altogether when you should be continuing to execute your plan. Professional traders understand that drawdowns aren't anomalies. They're statistical certainties. Any trading strategy worth executing will experience periods where nothing seems to work. The difference between professionals and amateurs isn't that professionals avoid these periods. It's that professionals prepare for them mentally and financially before they happen. This preparation involves something called worst-case scenario planning. Before they ever place their first trade, winning traders have already mentally rehearsed losing streaks of 10, 15, even 20 trades in a row. They've calculated exactly what this would mean for their account balance. They've determined at what point they would take a break to reassess. Most importantly, they've made peace with these possibilities before they become realities. The psychological preparation is just as important as the financial preparation. Successful traders develop what cognitive psychologists call emotional pre-commitment. They decide in advance how they will respond to various scenarios, removing the need to make emotional decisions in the heat of the moment. When a loss occurs, they don't need to decide what to do. They already know because they decided when their judgment was clear. This pre-commitment extends beyond individual trades to entire trading sessions and even longer periods. They know exactly when they'll stop trading for the day based on either profits or losses. They know when they'll take a break from trading entirely. They know when they'll reduce position size and when they'll increase it. These decisions are made during calm periods and executed during stressful periods. Here's where the concept of learned helplessness becomes relevant to trading success. Most people are familiar with learned helplessness as a negative psychological state where someone stops trying because they believe their actions don't matter. But there's a positive version that applies to trading. Successful traders learn to be helpless about controlling outcomes while maintaining complete control over their process. They accept that they cannot control whether any individual trade will be profitable. They cannot control market volatility, economic announcements, or the actions of other market participants. This acceptance of helplessness over outcomes paradoxically gives them complete power over the only thing that actually matters in trading: their own decisions and actions. This psychological framework eliminates the mental torture that most traders experience. When you truly accept that you cannot control outcomes, you stop wasting mental energy trying to predict exactly what will happen next. Instead, you focus that energy on preparing for multiple scenarios and executing your plan, regardless of which scenario unfolds. The concept of trading ranges becomes crucial when you understand this principle. Most traders try to predict whether the market will break out of a range or continue consolidating. Traders who have mastered losing prepare for both possibilities. They have a plan for the breakout scenario and a different plan for the continuation scenario. They don't care which one happens because they're prepared for both. This preparation mindset transforms your relationship with uncertainty from anxiety-producing to profit-generating. Uncertainty becomes opportunity rather than threat. Volatility becomes the raw material for profits rather than the source of sleepless nights. You start to understand why the best traders often perform their best during periods that terrify everyone else. Risk management stops being about avoiding losses and starts being about optimizing the relationship between risk and reward across hundreds of trades. You begin to think in terms of portfolios of trades rather than individual positions. Some trades will work, others won't, but the overall portfolio will be profitable if you maintain proper risk management and position sizing discipline. This portfolio thinking eliminates the psychological pressure on any single trade. When you know that your success depends on proper execution across many trades rather than being right on any particular trade, you can remain calm and objective even when individual positions move against you. The trade becomes less important than the process. The development of this mindset requires deliberate practice with small position sizes initially. You need to experience taking losses without the emotional intensity that comes with large financial stakes. Think of it as psychological conditioning. You're training your nervous system to remain calm under the specific stress of being wrong in financial markets. Many successful traders describe a moment when something clicked for them psychologically. They stopped fighting the market and started dancing with it. They stopped trying to impose their will on price action and started responding to what was actually happening. This shift from adversarial to collaborative thinking marks the transition from struggling amateur to developing professional. The irony is profound. The traders who spend the most energy trying to avoid losses often experience the largest losses because they can't execute proper risk management when they're terrified of being wrong. Meanwhile, traders who embrace small losses as part of their business model rarely experience large losses because they're comfortable cutting positions when their analysis proves incorrect. The transformation from loss avoidance to loss mastery fundamentally rewires how your brain processes market information. When you're no longer desperately trying to be right, you start noticing market signals that were invisible before. You see false breakouts for what they are instead of holding on to losing positions hoping they will reverse. You recognize when momentum is fading instead of convincing yourself the move will continue just because you're long. This clarity of perception is what separates professional decision-making from amateur hope and prayer trading. Your analytical abilities improve dramatically when they're not clouded by the desperate need to avoid admitting you were wrong. You start making decisions based on what the market is actually doing rather than what you need it to do to validate your position. Here's something remarkable that happens when you develop this relationship with losses. You become genuinely curious about your mistakes rather than ashamed of them. That curiosity drives continuous improvement in ways that ego protection never could. You start asking better questions. Instead of, why did this trade go against me? You ask, what market conditions make this setup less reliable? The shift from victim mentality to investigative mindset accelerates your learning curve exponentially. Professional traders develop what researchers call cognitive flexibility around their trading decisions. They can hold multiple market scenarios in their mind simultaneously without getting emotionally attached to any single outcome. This mental agility allows them to pivot quickly when market conditions change instead of stubbornly holding on to positions that no longer make sense. The ability to change your mind quickly becomes a superpower in markets that are constantly evolving. While amateur traders dig in their heels when positions move against them, professionals view changing market conditions as new information, requiring updated decisions. They don't see position adjustments as admissions of failure, but as demonstrations of adaptability. This adaptability extends beyond individual trades to entire trading approaches. Markets go through cycles where different strategies work better or worse. Traders who have mastered losing can adjust their methods when their usual approach stops working without experiencing an identity crisis. They understand that their value as traders comes from their ability to adapt, not from their attachment to any particular strategy. The concept of emotional regulation becomes central to this discussion. Most people think emotional regulation means suppressing feelings or staying calm all the time. But in trading, emotional regulation means experiencing the full range of emotions that come with wins and losses while not letting those emotions drive your decisions. You feel the disappointment of a loss without letting that disappointment cause you to deviate from your plan. This emotional awareness creates a feedback loop that improves your trading over time. You start recognizing the early warning signs of emotional decision-making before they lead to costly mistakes. You notice when you're getting overconfident after a series of winners or when you're becoming gun-shy after several losses. This self-awareness allows you to make process adjustments before your psychology sabotages your performance. The traders who build lasting wealth in financial markets aren't the ones who avoid losses. They're the ones who've learned to lose skillfully, systematically, and without emotional attachment. Your relationship with being wrong will determine everything about your trading future. Start viewing your next loss not as failure, but as tuition paid for the education that separates professionals from amateurs.